Thanks, Matt. Yeah, thanks for joining. Do go to the open spaces. I think they're really cool. It's a really cool thing DevOpsDays does. But thanks for coming. I was expecting it was going to be just me and Matt here. So yeah, my talk is about how your infrastructure needs to die. Ominous sounding, but we're all okay. My talk's divided into two parts. I'm first going to take you on a diamond heist. And this diamond heist I'll relate to the old way of doing security in InfoSec about the CIA triad. And then from that and the learnings we take from the heist, I'll be talking about the new way of doing things and a better way of securing your infrastructure, the D.I.E triad, the D.I.E triad. But first, just a little bit about me. Yep, that's me, pre-pandemic. Hair is a lot shorter there. I've got it in a ponytail right now. I'm a senior cloud native engineer in the Netherlands, as Matt was saying, in working for Container Solutions. So, our heist, set in Antwerp, Belgium. And this is a true story, or at least what I'm going to tell you is based on a true story. And it's 2003, and we've got a bandit of 6 people. The genius, the one who specializes in the alarm systems, can access any alarm system and disable it. The monster, a tall, gigantic man who's monstrously good at anything he gets his hands on. He's a good electrician, mechanic, you name it, he can do it. The king of keys, an old, frail man who can pretty much replicate any key he gets his eye on. The insider, the Antwerp diamond dealer, and for a heist like this, you do need an insider. Speedy, he's our lookout and getaway driver, just in case we need that. He's a bit fidgety, but he is friends with the mastermind of all of this, Notar Bartolo. He's the Italian suave man who can charm you and convince you to do anything. Our target. It's a vault 2 floors beneath the Antwerp Diamond Center. It has about 160 safety deposit boxes. It's protected by multiple systems. The first thing we need to take care of is the 3-ton vault door, which has a lock with 100 million possible combinations. There is also a keypad which code unlocks the systems and some of the sensors around it, some of which are the magnetic field sensor and seismic sensor to make sure that if any tampering is done on the vault door, we get notified. There's also a security camera and a heat sensor for any spikes in heat, and also a light sensor. So there are a fair amount of systems which, as soon as are triggered, will notify our private security system. So the gang has a fair amount of work to do to get it into the vault. But they're fairly ingenious and they can get around most of these traps and systems. In fact, the first thing they do is we compare it to the CIA triad, which is confidentiality. Confidentiality. Every secret or password or code is only known by a few people. So the code and the lock is only known by the security force. Or so we think so. Integrity. The vault has a 3-ton vault door. And anytime the vault door is locked, nobody can get in. Or so we think so. And availability. Even though you have confidentiality and integrity, you need to allow your customers to go in and avail themselves of their safety deposit boxes. But once again, as we said, you're only allowed to go in through supervision of the security force and only during working hours. And again, also we think so. So our team starts off planning the heist. Notar Bartolo spends months and months disguised as an Antwerp diamond dealer. He gets friendly with the security force. As we said, he's a charmer. He makes friends with them, and they start to get used to him going in and out of the vault. In fact, they get used to him so much that it allows him to put small pinhole cameras all over the vault. And these pinhole cameras are wirelessly linked to the outside world, where they can grab the footage of the system and allows them to actually figure out the lock, the combination of the lock and also the code in the keypad. He also manages to put some hairspray on the thermal heat sensor, which disables the system for just enough time until they get into the vault and disable it completely. So they get into the vault through the garden of the building next door. They jump over, cover security cameras with black plastic bin bags, and get down into the vault. So they get down to the vault, they know the lock, they know the code. They then need to open the gate with a key. And even though the king of keys, as I said, can create that key, Notar Bartolo realizes that there's this utility room over here, which he's noticed during the footage. The security force, at the end of the day, go in there. So he gets a hunch. He goes into the utility room, and he finds the actual key to the vault. They've been storing the actual keys in an open utility room next to the vault. So they've come into the vault, they've managed to disable the heat sensor with some styrofoam, and rewired the light sensor. As I said, there are bin bags on the security cameras, and they just start going at the safety deposit boxes. They grab all the diamonds, all the cash, all the family heirloom they can from the vault, and they start stuffing their duffel bags. So with some very simple tools and a lot of ingenuity, this true story, which I'd suggest you look up if you have time, this true story allows our gang to leave with 100 million euros, which nowadays is on parity with the dollar, so it's $100 million. And why have I told you the story, apart from it being an interesting story? Well, it shows us that he cannot really outfox a fox. There's always going to be a hacker who wants to try and get into your system, who wants to try and put a crypto miner on your server, or grab all the data, lock you out, and then threaten you with some kind of ransomware. Hackers are always ingenious. They always find some way to get into your system. So how can we deal with this? Well, we've been talking about DevOps and cloud native and the cloud for the last 10, 15 years. And some of us still seem to be in the heist mindset. We still try to fix an issue with CIA. But as we move to the cloud, we want to be more cloud native. And we do this by employing the D.I.E triad, having your infrastructure to be distributed, immutable, and ephemeral. So this was first proposed by Sunil Yu, who's CISO at JupyterOne, and also championed by people like Kelly Shortridge, who's an expert in InfoSec. First off, distributed. Making sure that the system has multiple servers. Taking our heist example, had we had 100 vaults around Antwerp, the gang wouldn't have been able to take more than 1% of the final reward. And with the cloud, we can do this a lot easier. You don't have to physically build 100 vaults. You can deploy 100 servers, 100 VMs, 100 clusters with a click of a button. Or if you're doing it correctly, with some code. And you want to do this because, as the saying goes, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. If one of the attackers does actually manage to get into the server, you can shut it down immediately as soon as you're notified about that crypto miner. And knowing that shutting down one server means all of your systems are still up and running are going to be extremely annoying to that hacker. For example, CDNs, content delivery networks, have leveraged the cloud-native mindset by making sure that the outcome of DDoS attacks are pretty much a thing of the past. An attack by thousands and thousands of bots are not directed to only one server. They're directed to multiple servers. And these allow CDNs to keep everything up and running. They've also managed and ensured that when the network got flooded by everybody working from home, kept everything up and running because the pandemic had started. And because you have a system where you know that as soon as you delete something and throw it away, and everything's still up and running, you also can, if you throw it away, you can regenerate that and add it to the hive. So basically, as soon as one server goes down, I've got 99 servers, but that ain't one. Hit me. I promise you that's my last rap lyric, unless we go karaokeing later today with Leanne. Might be some karaoke later. Next up, immutable. Making sure that once you deploy something, you do not change it. You do not touch it. You don't want to have a server and change it as it's running. So because you're not changing anything, you don't write to disk. And because you don't write to disk, you make sure that your system is not stateful. And because you're not changing anything, the screen goes off. Sorry about this. Yeah, okay, cool. And because you're not changing anything, you don't want to allow, you want to close all your doors. You don't want to let SSH, and you don't want to let kubectl exec. And because you have no doors, it's going to be extremely difficult for your attacker to get into your server. Knowing that nothing can change means that you're not going to have, it's going to be extremely difficult for your attacker to get into your system. Knowing that nothing needs to change means you're not going to allow SSH and kubectl exec, as I said. You can also start thinking of your infrastructure as cattle rather than pets. And I'm sure we've probably most of us have heard about the cattle versus pets analogy. Because your servers are being treated like cattle, you can delete it and off it goes. And in comes the next cattle. Because nothing has changed, you can monitor and detect for those changes. And you can start playing around and start annoying attackers even more. Imagine having a passwords.txt file in your home directory or in your container. For an attacker, that's going to be extremely enticing to go and look at. But you've set up monitoring, and you've set up for any changes into that file to be detected. And once that file is touched by the attacker, because he will go and look around that file, boom, the server is destroyed, leaving the attacker extremely annoyed with what's happening. And finally, ephemerality. Making sure that what you deploy is short-lived, does its job, and off it goes. And the emphasis here is on short-lived. It's useless having a Kubernetes cluster which lasts for months on end and you never touch. They need to be short-lived. If you have a new image, you deploy that new image, you reroute the traffic to that new image, and then you delete the old image. You want to log something new. You don't go into the server and start messing around into the flight system. You create a new image with that logging feature, deploy it, reroute traffic, and then delete the old image. That new image you've just deployed is not working. Deploy the old image, reroute traffic, and delete that old image. And anybody using Kubernetes nowadays actually has been doing this on a pretty much daily basis, or at least you should be doing it on a daily basis. When you deploy a container, when you want to add new features or new logic to your code base, you create a new image of that container, deploy it to Kubernetes, and then Kubernetes automatically does the rerouting and killing of the pod for you. So this mentality now needs to be shifted towards our servers as well. Upgrading a Kubernetes cluster should follow immutability. If you want to upgrade a Kubernetes cluster, you create that cluster, fill it up with all of your applications, reroute the traffic from the old cluster to the new cluster or new version, and then delete the old cluster. You can also play around with the traffic by putting bit by bit of traffic into that new cluster, ensuring that it's working correctly before you give it 100%. And because you're designing for ephemerality, you also need to start designing your applications to be ephemeral and stateless, which is extremely important on a Kubernetes cluster. Knowing that your application is going to die at any moment in time it means you want to design it to be stateless. Knowing that your application is stateless means you cannot store state, meaning you cannot store passwords, you cannot store tokens, and the attacker is going to have a very difficult time to grab those tokens and passwords. And talking about tokens and passwords, you want to make sure that also your tokens and passwords are ephemeral. If you have infrastructure that's going to die every few days, hours, or minutes, over and over and over and over again, but is still using the same password, it's going to be a bit hollow. So ensure you change your passwords, use ephemeral passwords, so that if an attacker actually manages in some way or another to grab that password, it's going to be useless. Tools like HashiCorp Vault and AWS Secret Manager help you in rotating those passwords. And something like ESO, External Secrets Operator, will help you control that on your Kubernetes cluster. Leanne Lee has a really good talk about this. So my other colleague from Amsterdam has a really good talk about this tomorrow, about secret management. I highly suggest you go and hear it out. So in essence, designing your infrastructure, which is distributed, immutable, and ephemeral, lowers that risk factor on all of your system. You need to stop thinking about CIA because you want to do D.I.E. As Sunil Yu puts it, if my infrastructure is distributed, why do I need to worry about my availability? If my infrastructure is immutable, why do I need to worry about my integrity? And if my infrastructure is ephemeral, why do I need to worry about my confidentiality? Now, it's all well and good for me to be up here and telling you, create infrastructure that dies and only think about infrastructure that dies. Well, you've probably got some pets within your system which are already up and running. How do you figure out which are those pets? Well, let's create some chaos. And I'm not going to go into the intricacies of chaos engineering. That's a whole different talk, and I probably don't have the time to do that. But creating creative destruction will allow you to understand how your system is going to work when things go wrong. Or it will tell you, do you actually know how your system will work when things go wrong? And as you create a bit of chaos, you start finding those pets which you want to turn into cattle by designing for distribution, immutability, and ephemerality. Now, I want to answer, before I conclude, I want to answer the question, do I need to do everything? Does everything need to be a cattle? Does everything need to die? And I live in the real world. I don't live on the stage. I live in a world where I need to go to customers and help them design their infrastructure while still keeping the systems running. So, no, you don't do everything all at once. You don't release your monkeys into production. Start off with staging. But ask the questions, figure out which are your pets, and ask the question, how is this affecting my security, my resilience, my reliability? If you're not happy with how you answer that question, you've got two things. Either bog down and force a good team to do CIA on that infrastructure, have on call, be prepared for anything that can happen, or design for distributed, immutable, and infrastructure. Because, as I hope to have convinced you, designing for distributed, immutable, and ephemeral infrastructure is a lot easier to secure your system. And because it's easier, you can be a lot calmer. And you can end up like the cat snugged up into a nice blanket. And who doesn't want to be a cat snugged up in a nice blanket? I keep on telling my wife, every time I see our cats, I wish I was a cat. So these are some of the resources I've used and some of the people I talked about. Highly suggest you download the report about security chaos engineering by Erin Reinhardt and Kelly Shortridge. I believe you can go on Kelly's website and download it. I'll give you a few seconds to take photos. But yeah, that's me. Thanks for paying attention. I think I've done it in time. I've lost. Yep. More than happy to take any questions, comments, criticisms. One thing about that hashtag, I love buzzwords, and I love them because I hate them at the same time. So I've invented my own buzzword as a catch-all. Feel free to use it. Any questions? Sorry? Well, it's no ops, biz ops. All of them end with ops. Yeah. Excellent. Cheers. Thank you.